Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a long time since I've posted a video here and I decided today would be the perfect opportunity to do so. So in this video, I'm going to be discussing everything that I wish I knew before sixth form / college and basically all the tips that I wish someone had given me before I'd started. It's so warm, so I'm going to take this off. So I have everything on my little, not so little iPad here, and the most common question I got was, how is sixth form / college different to regular school? So I think the top 3 ways to say this or answer this question is that, number 1, for sixth form, you're much more independent. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this. Like, teachers often always say like, oh, you don't really get like prompts for how you're supposed to do stuff. You're expected to just like get on with the task that you're given. So that's definitely one big thing. Like, you're so much more independent in sixth form, and it's something you have to start like grappling with and then kind of get used to as you go over the 2 years. Another thing that I think is a big difference, at least for someone who was doing a lot of subjects at GCSE, like most people 10 or 11, is that you get free periods. And the thing with free periods is I had no idea what to do in them, and like we got a little like lesson on how to use our free periods properly because none of us had ever had them, and they're like so useful, and it's something that's going to come up even more in terms of university, so it's a good way of kind of getting used to it. But free periods are basically where you just have an allocated amount of time free to do any sort of studying, whether it be for your subjects, or of course some people just play games in it, but you basically have that time to yourself to do whatever you want. Now we're going to start with a big thing where like the section by section things that I've written down on my iPad here, and basically the first one is note taking. How are you supposed to note take? Is it digital or do you do it on paper? And basically tips surrounding that. At sixth form, there's so many different ways you can take notes. Sometimes schools are a bit strict and they'll be like, oh, you can only take notes on paper or you can take them digitally. Other than that, you can pretty much pick how you note take, especially if you're in a more relaxed college or relaxed sixth form. And yeah, so in that sense is like, how do you note take? What tools do you use? And like, what methods do you use? So what I recommend is for note taking, you don't focus on making your notes look nice or really like aesthetic, because I started doing that in year 12 and I didn't know any better, and honestly they looked amazing. I'll put a few pictures of them up now. I was trying to use the Cornell method where I have questions down the side and like a little summary at the bottom, but instead of making the notes really good, I would be focused on how they looked in terms of the aesthetic, and I feel like that's a no-go. And instead, if you're making digital notes, you can just use Google Docs or Word, and that is much better in terms of formatting and actually being focused and making the notes properly. Or if you're doing paper notes, I feel like 1 highlighter and 1 pen or another 2 colored pens is all you need max, and that way you're not going to be focused on so much the aesthetic versus the actual content. So I have this one thing written down on my iPad here that's really important, and I feel like is probably the best tip when it comes to note taking at sixth form, and that is to write down what your teacher is talking about and saying instead of writing down from the textbook or from the PowerPoint. They're not just there for any reason, they're there to teach you the stuff, and they have like tips and tricks how to do well in the exams / tests / little things that you should pick up on. So that's one thing I definitely didn't do at the start that I learned later on. And then when you get home in that consolidation period and homework period, which I'm going to come and talk about later on in the video, you can just write down everything from the textbook / PowerPoint that adds to what they've said in class. Okay, so number 2 on this is free periods, and that's a really big thing when it comes to sixth form that I feel like not a lot of people know exactly how to use. So free periods, with free periods at the start, you will just be tempted to play games, which is totally normal. Everyone does it at the start of sixth form, but later on you do want to use them as useful pieces of your time where you can consolidate information, you can do your homework sometimes, do past papers. I feel like my biggest tip for free periods is to use them well, in the sense where, let's say like our sixth form, you have 20 free periods over the course of the week. What I would do is I would use about, let's say 15 of them to do work, and then 5 single periods or so I would probably spend time with my friends or like talk and chill and hang out a bit. It'll come to the time where you realize a lot of your friends have the same time off as you in terms of your free periods, and if you're in like a communal area, you will end up talking, and that's like not the worst thing, providing that you can still get your work done at other times and not just use all your free periods for gaming or playing stuff or like doing whatever. So the next thing I have written down here is outfits / friendships and things like that, miscellaneous things to do with sixth form / college. Here is where they differ a bit. Some sixth forms are stricter and they make you wear suits or at least have a smart type of dress code, and then most colleges are pretty nice and chill where you can wear whatever you want. And the thing here is what I feel like is a really useful tip is for people who are allowed to wear whatever they want, you should definitely invest in some good basics. So I feel like good basics are like black and blue jeans, white t-shirts, black t-shirts, different like print shirts which are really easy to find, hoodies, shoes that you can wear every day. So some people wear boots, some people wear Sambas, Converse, things like that. that. So that's just something I wanted to mention because it's not that often it comes up in these like educational based videos, but it's like a really big thing. I feel like everyone's going to be concerned with what they're wearing, and there will be a point where you end up using all your good outfits and then now you just have like no idea what to wear, and that's where basics come in. You can pair them with like multiple different things and wear them as often as you want and then layer things on top of them, especially in the winter/autumn, and it's just a really good way of dressing. And it means that from like one pair of jeans and like 3 pairs of shirts you can get, I don't know, 15 different outfit combinations with some other hoodies and shoes thrown in the mix. And then the second part of this section is all to do with friendships and like making friends and like talking to people, things like that. One thing I feel like is like really important is when you go up to people and you have to like, you're forced to meet them and whatever, be nice, be friendly, like be complimenting. Let's say someone's wearing like a cool fit, like tell them that. And I know it is harder for people who have anxiety and are more socially anxious, but it's one of the best ways where you can make friends. Or if you are someone who's going to a completely different sixth form from your old school, go up to people, just talk to them, and like whoever you're sitting next to in class, just talk to them, ask them how they're finding the school or how they found it in the lower years if they, let's say, went to school there. Or sometimes you get allocated people to like show you around the school, and a lot of times the people who you meet at the start won't be the ones you're going to be long-term friends with later on. Those people you find in like lesson times or free periods and whatever. Also, this should go without saying, but you shouldn't be giving people fake compliments. Like, be authentic, be genuine, and like don't be fake. And the next thing I wanted to talk about in this, what I wish I knew before starting sixth form video, is stuff to do with university and higher education. And the reason I'm going to talk about this in this video is because it's not something that you feel like will be like a big thing immediately starting, but honestly in the Easter term and like the months before that, immediately it's going to feel like no one gave you any warning and suddenly everything you're talking about and everything people are talking about is to do with university. Just basically don't be afraid of things coming at you full in the face when it comes to university. It's going to come really suddenly, but like you should have some sort of idea what you want to do in the future or with higher education. And if you don't, a lot of places have really good careers things where you can like go ahead and ask people for advice and see how different like universities are like, and basically all of that sort of stuff, higher education based. Another thing you should definitely try and do is in year 12, you should try and get work experience to do whatever career you're thinking of doing in the future. That's how I differentiated between becoming a doctor and becoming a psychologist, or hopefully becoming a psychologist and going into psychology. And when I went to do the work experience, the stuff that I heard from the doctors and how it was in terms of actually learning about the stuff was super interesting, yes, but I felt like it didn't really fit me as a person, and that's why I ended up going with psychology. One thing to bear in mind, tips for tests, that's the last section in terms of this what I wish I knew before starting sixth form video, and that is tests are going to come at you really fast. There's going to be a test immediately, probably as soon as you start for some subjects, which is like a baseline test. There's going to be tests in the first half term. It's going to go super fast. And for anyone doing STEM subjects, what I want you to keep in mind is that PMT, physics and maths tutor, is your go-to, your holy grail when it comes to that. Last thing I want to say is good luck to everyone going into sixth form college soon. And if you do feel like you're struggling, go ahead, just speak to your teachers. And you're not alone, honestly, because it's like gonna be a thing with everyone where everyone feels like they're struggling at the start. And as you get to grips with your subjects and how to take notes properly, how to do things on your own without anyone assisting you, it's gonna be so much easier. And basically you're gonna have so much fun at sixth form. So good luck.